very profitable. I honestly think the measure of success is being able to do good.
Do good. Don't do evil. Like
And
what?
That's right.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, Google has mentioned. Right?
Yep.
Excuse me.
Yes. No problem.
Yeah. Milk it.
So we do have a lot of countries going in the right direction and really modernising. So we do have New Zealand, we've got Canada, we've got Hong Kong, we've got Portugal, we've got Scandinavia.
How about Iceland?
There's a lot of countries going in the right direction.
How about Iceland?
That's part of...
do you think
I do count them as Scandinavia.
Do you think Iceland will turn into a country adequate for the growth of small business entities?
I actually don't know. I haven't looked into them enough. I haven't done any trade with Iceland, to be honest.
But we can always.
That I don't know.
But we can always try to make a guess, right? Make a reasonable guess of.
Yes. Yeah. My guess is that they will follow, basically.
Pretty much like
the trends in Scandinavia.
Yeah, Scandinavia. Yeah. Because it's part of the Scandinavian cultural.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Influence sphere.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, you've got Iceland on one side, and you've got Estonia on the other side, which they share so much with the Scandinavian attitudes. On top of that, we've got. I also think it's important for Australia to really have close relationships with our neighbours. So developing the Asia Pacific, particularly the countries that are closest to Australia. So Indonesia is a major potential trading partner that we're not doing very much with and not cooperating with a lot. And I think this has a lot to do with the us and them division that has been growing for quite some time. If Australia and Indonesia don't end up building a strong relationship, I think within 50 years that will be the demise of Australia, because Indonesia is a strong country and they're a wealthy country and they're growing even more wealthy.
So you are saying Indonesia...
We need to get on the same page with them.
So you are saying Indonesia would turn into a developed country in the next couple of decades?
I think so, yes.
Based on...
I think we're going to see a major shift. So if you look at South Korea around 30 years ago, I think that's where Indonesia is today. So look at South Korea today compared to 30 years ago.
Yeah, but South Korea, the way I see it, it's declining in every aspect. It's got very low, extremely low fertility rates and very high suicide rates. And the people there are just trying to flee out of the country to Australia, to Japan, to America, even China. Yeah.
Look, what's happened with Korea, and the same thing has happened in other small countries that have grown very quickly, especially after wartime. So the same thing happened in Estonia, but not as bad as it did in South Korea. South Korea is probably the best example of this. You've got a country that has gone from nothing to a successful, modern, developed nation in a matter of 40 or 50 years. So they've gone from having no infrastructure and having very little in the way of business to having millions of apartment buildings, towers, roads, businesses. I think South Korea even has more cities than any other country in the world. It's absolutely ridiculous, the amount of stuff they've got.
Its urbanization seems particularly high. It almost has no rural areas, the way I see it.
Now, the problem with growing so quickly is that if someone doesn't stay ahead, there ends up being a really, really big divide between the haves and the have-nots, the rich and the poor. It's a huge division. And so now you've got people in Korea who were brought up in a comfortable family, and they're okay. They've got the money, they've got the status, they can get good jobs, they've got a good education, and they're just going to get more wealthy. Then you've got those who didn't get ahead, especially those that were in the countryside or even in a lot of port towns that were slow to develop. They've got nowhere to get ahead. They don't have access to good education. They can't afford a lot of things in in Korea. It's very beneficial for those people to do what they can to get out of Korea to a country where they can actually make a good wage that's above $2 or $3 an hour. Save up, work hard for a few years, save up, go back, buy houses, buy property. Without a loan, they can pay cash. Yep. So, for example, if you came to Australia on a working holiday and worked hard, so you could do this on the farms. On the farms, you can make 70 grand if you work hard, especially for a guy. You do that for 2 years, you've got 140 grand. You are buying houses in South Korea with that. You are now ahead. You're not struggling anymore. It doesn't matter. You can rent out some of those houses. You don't have to work. You are comfortable. You are now really, really wealthy. So that is one of the problems when a country grows quickly like that or changes quickly. A lot of people get left behind. And that also creates a situation where people will do anything to get ahead. They will break laws, they will compromise themselves, they will do whatever it takes, because if they do not get ahead, their children will never get ahead, and that just goes on. It gets worse and worse every generation.
So in other words, those have-nots and left behind will do whatever it takes to gain higher and better socio-economical status.
They should. The only reason they got left behind, look, there are exceptions. There are people who have just done shitty things or haven't done anything. But a lot of people that got left behind, they got left behind because of where they were born, or what dialect they speak, or what church they belong to, or so many things. Some of the things are completely out of their hands. It's basically luck. So you're lucky or you're unlucky, and that's all it has to do with it.
So it all occurs to me that you still you still want a more secular country than plainly and purely Christian state, right? Why?
Oh, very, very, very much so.
And why?
Christianity has been trying to kill other belief systems in this country since we've been doing it for 200 years. We've been trying to take away Indigenous languages, Indigenous culture, Indigenous religion, and trying to the Christian view. And now we're trying to do it with other groups too. So as soon as you come out and you say you're atheist, you really, really get shut down. If you say you're Muslim, it's even worse. You really get targeted with some really hateful vitriol. The Jews generally get left alone in this country because the values are very, very similar. So they're generally more liberal in their reading of the Bible in this country. And Australia used to be quite liberal. Like, we didn't take the Bible literally. But there's starting to be a real drive now to take the word in a very, very literal way. Like, this is exactly what happened. But the problem with taking it literally is you're no longer looking at it as a bunch of case studies or guides, etc. You're going, no, this is the rule. And how you're told to interpret that becomes the new law. And that law starts in your church, then goes out to the community, then goes out to the rest of Australia. And it usually comes down to one senior person in the church who has come up with that particular view of that particular verse, and eventually it creeps into law in Australia, and it affects people who don't share the same beliefs. And secularism is about preventing that, so that regardless of your belief, the laws will suit everyone. They apply equally to everyone. Now, even if you pick one church, even one particular church, not everyone's going to agree on interpretations.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot satisfy everyone by trying to creep those interpretations into law.
Okay.
What I do support, though, and a lot of people who are humanists do not support this, but I definitely do. I do. Some of Europe does this very, very well too. You actually register your religion with the government, and that's done for a reason. It's to say that you're opting in to the beliefs and the laws of this church, and then you can be judged or governed by the laws of those church. So if you're a church member and someone else is a member of the same church, and the church laws say this, then you follow it. If you don't want to follow it, you leave that church and you find a church that you do believe in. But when it comes to someone who's not a member of those church laws should never apply, ever.
Agree. Yeah. The way I see it, a secularized state will make things a lot better and a lot freer. And I suppose Australia should, I suppose Australia should simply follow the American, pathway when it comes to the balance between secularization and Christianity, right? So we just
that America did when it was founded. No longer. That has been completely eroded.
Eroded.
I would say that America in no way, shape or form is currently secular. By their constitution they are.
By the constitution they are.
There's been that many court rulings whittling that away and weakening the words in the constitution that now it's a meaningless piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It should literally be set on fire. It means absolutely nothing. And that piece of paper gets waved around so people can shoot other people. And that's the only thing it's good for.
Australia is turning more like America. Everyone just shoots.
We are following them.
Everyone I'm not sure if you are familiar with the a infamous channel named Archie Luxury. Have you heard of that? Archie Luxury.
What is it?
Uncle Archie Luxury, also named Paul Pluta.
No, I don't know at all.
Then
No.
I highly suggest you go and have a watch. You can let me know how you like those video clips our Uncle Archie Luxury made. Because the way I see it, he's made lots of quite let's say controversial comments and videos characterized by huge and gigantic criticisms against some Aussie values and principles, especially on some the current path in which the Aussie society is going. He actually, it was him that who gave me the idea and notion that Australia is now becoming Americanized, kind of, sort of.
No, it is very much so. Our government, the current government, is very, very, very pro-America.
Pro-America. I see. But I can still find lots of Aussies who despise of America and American values.
This is where I always try to differentiate between the US and America, and I actually use the words meaning different things. I may have explained this to you before. When I say America, I'm talking about the American people, who generally good people.
So there's still a subtle.
There's a lot of very unique. The people of America, I don't have a problem with. The US is something that
completely
I think has become
different.
completely corrupted.
It's corrupt, and it's
And I think the US itself is anti-American.
Agreed.
And I think they do a lot of damage to both their own country and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And it's all about money.
Yeah,
and you take money
money
out of the equation, and US stands for nothing, absolutely nothing.
Even China got challenged by their notion of money, their notion of capitalism. Because China now is essentially a capitalist country, because everyone here pretty much values.
You've got a duality. You've got two systems. Basically, you've got a line, and everyone east of that line is living in a capitalist system, and everyone west of that line is still under the old communist system.
Yeah, though
where you've got peasantry, etc.
Yeah, though most people in China don't admit that China is currently employing a system of capitalism, but it is,
it's in your major city. Like, if you look at the majority of your population, they probably don't even experience cash flow, so they're not part of the capitalist system. And I don't think the government runs off the capitalist system, but they do have capitalist markets within Japan, which really benefit in China, which do benefit a select few. In China still means still means 100 million people.
If a creature walks like a duck, then it quacks like a duck, then it is a duck.
Yep.
Who doesn't agree with that?
I don't think the government.
It is a duck, right? It is a duck.
I think the government is still communist because they run the country off a communist system. They're not run off a capitalist system, but they have embraced capitalism in business. They could outlaw capitalism tomorrow, and the country is still alive. It still floats. It doesn't really have much effect. Whereas if America tomorrow said, this form of capitalism is illegal, the whole system collapses. So that's why we can say, yes, America is a capitalist country, and China, while they've got a lot of capitalist systems and they've got capitalist markets and capitalist businesses, they still don't rely on that system.
So you mean China still has its own core?
It's still got its communist system. You've still got peasants picking rice.
But I don't see the core, the core pillars which support the current, the Chinese way of creating and sustaining a system, right? I still don't see that other than the Chinese Communist Party. Other than
go west.
Oh, so it's pretty much the West. So it's pretty much America.
Go west a couple of days. No, go west in China a couple of days. You'll see a major difference.
It's all.
So if you're within a few hours of the coast, you're seeing the new China, but there's still the old China. Go west.
Yeah, sure. Well, in fact, I had a chance to land on a transit, airport, somewhere in the southwest, somewhere in Guizhou province, and I saw I saw they got a fancy airport, but I didn't actually go outside the airport and see what most people are up to, and so perhaps you are right on that after all.
You've still got half the country that are working and not being paid money.
Not much, because let's say
they're usually being paid in food and other goods.
But here, let's say here in the city I currently reside in, which is my grandma's birthplace, and in this province called Hebei, I still see most
Yep.
people are just earning a wage under, let's say, 2,000 RMB, the local currency.
Wow.
Yes,
Yep.
which is pretty much equivalent to less than 400 Aussie dollars per month. It's pretty sad. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yep.
I'm still lucky that I got some projects, some tasks I can outsource from Australia, and I still got paid a little bit of Aussie bucks, and I can live like pretty handsomely, pretty decently here. Yeah, I just use this.
Yep.
I just managed to use the value differences between these two currencies, and I
Yep.
just yeah, because I'm living with my grandma, I don't have to pay rent or whatsoever. So yeah, I suppose you are
That's fortunate.
you're right about that. Yeah.
Yep. What were you asking me to look up? Was it Uncle Archie?
Yes, Uncle.
I couldn't hear
Well,
clearly.
you don't need to type in Uncle. You just type in Archie Luxury. I will text you.
Archie
Archie Luxury. Yes, he actually made
Lu-
quite lots of. Yeah, he actually made quite lots
Got
of
it.
highly controversial videos, saying lots of he's pretty much you know kind of slandering Australia and Aussie people. He said lots of bad things about Aussie and Australia. Yeah, but I
There's a
do.
lot of reasons to say bad things about Australia. Where
Yeah, and he is an Aussie. He was born in Australia, and he is from Brisbane. But yeah, I saw some commentary, the commentary clips he made. He said Sydney is aggressive, Sydney is mean, is nasty. Probably
it
he
is.
removed it.
No, but it is a very unfriendly city.
Other than you are very friendly to me. You post no.
I'm not from Sydney.
No, you're not from Sydney. Yeah, you're very
No.
friendly, but you are not from Sydney. Okay, I get it. Yeah. So yeah,
Yep.
probably what he said makes sense. Somewhat makes sense, right? He said makes sense. Yeah, but since you've been living in Sydney for like quite a couple, 2 decades, or just a decade, but you are not a Sydney sider. You are
No, in
no.
my life, I think I've spent 7 or 8 years in Sydney.
Okay, but that makes you a Sydney person. That makes you a local, really. Unless you are
Don't know. I've spent more time in other places.
okay.
And that's always broken up. In actually having a house or apartment in Sydney has been 2 years.
2 years. Okay. So
Yep.
you just got pretty much settled in Sydney. You just managed to colonize Sydney only in the most recent years, right?
Oh no, I was sort of living here before. At the moment, I'm not really. I'm just temporary.
No matter.
I'm passing.
It
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me that much anyway. Yeah, because as far as I can see, most Aussies don't post any hostility against me. So I still love Aussies and Australia. Yeah. So what Uncle Archie Luxury said did not actually hurt my feelings about Aussies and Australia or Sydney. Yeah. Yes. And yet in the meantime I still appreciate what he what he presented on YouTube, and and also his effort to tell us the truth about Sydney, the truth about the current system the
Yeah.
current the current Australian government is currently employing and implementing. Yeah, so I highly appreciate this honesty there. Yeah, it carries noble. Yeah, let's try not to mention whether it carries a noble purpose or not, but the honesty there really impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I think you'll see is Australia was lucky for a long time, especially the generation above ours. It was very, very easy to get ahead through a little bit of hard work, which is no longer the case.
No longer okay.
Now, that has disenfranchised a lot of Australians. They realise if they work hard, they're not really going to get ahead. If they haven't already got ahead, sort of, they've missed the boat kind of thing. And it's over half the population.
Half the population are living under the poverty line?
It depends where you draw the poverty line. There's more than half the population which what would you say? They may be comfortable, but they don't have the opportunity to grow. So what they have achieved at this stage in life, whether they're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, they don't have the ability, even through hard work, to gain more. They can sustain themselves, they can keep that lifestyle, but there's not really any, it takes away purpose. And I think this is one of the drivers to religion, because they can't find purpose in society, so they're trying to find purpose in religion.
I get that.
Now, so because these people they see that the system has changed, they see that it's working against them, everyone wants to blame someone. Now, some people blame
the government.
The majority of people do blame the government, but they blame different parts of the government, and who they blame is generally based on the media that they read. So they're being told who to blame.
So
they're not really actually looking at the situation and trying to educate themselves on the situation, find out how we got here. Instead, they're going, oh, the newspaper told me this is the person to blame, so this is the person to blame. And it goes on from there. And of course, various media owners have their own agenda, what they want people to think, or etc. So I do think it's really, really dangerous, and Australia has gone down that road where they've listened to some pretty crappy, irreputable media, pretty much like America has. And yeah, it's caused that's helped promote division in this country, because you've got people who follow one media source, you've got people who follow another media source, you've got people who follow whatever they were taught at their school, then you've got other people who actually look at the policy. But unfortunately, that's a real minority in this country. I see very few people that actually pick up the Hansard, the recordings of what happened in Parliament, who actually read through the legislation, who actually look at who voted which way in Parliament. The media doesn't report on this. They try to grasp on little things to attack certain politicians, but that's as far as the reporting goes. We have become an uneducated country. We're not politically savvy, and everyone is just, because everyone's hurting, they want government policy to give them something, even if it costs someone else. And this is creating more infighting. So we're fighting with each other instead of working together to try to grow the country. And while we're fighting with each other, you've got people who are in higher positions that see, oh, this is an opportunity, I can make this happen, this happen, this happen. And while it doesn't help Australia, or potentially even hurts Australia, it helps my pocket, or it helps my family, or it helps my community, or it helps my beliefs. And that's a lot of what's going on. While Australians are fighting with each other, things are just going to get worse and worse and worse. And we're getting close to the point of no return, where those who do want it to become better will have no choice than to leave wait for it to hit rock bottom, wait for international intervention, wait for Australia to start rebuilding, come back and rebuild. So there's a last-ditch effort now by a lot of people to try to reverse our policy direction before it gets to that stage. But really, everything's stacked against us.
So
So it is hard to
suppose
stay positive.
yeah, I suppose the current circumstance really necessitates a prayer from me. So I'll find some time to make a prayer for everyone
Sure.
in Australia and Australia, the country itself, and everyone who's been falsely accused in the Aussie government. Yeah.
Yep.
I suppose, from a Christian's perspective, Satan is the one who is to be blamed, not people. It's the dark, the principalities, the dark power in the unseen world, and because Satan, he operates in the air, he operates right above us. He pulls the buttons,
Yep.
yes, he has pulls, he has the lines to manipulate, so he's the one ultimately to be blamed.
I think this situation has got less to do with good and evil, as we'll call it. I think a lot of the people that, especially in the government, that are pushing this, some are doing it for their family benefits. So to them, they're doing good, or they have a certain belief that they think is of benefit to Australia too. And the reason that they're following that thinking is they're uneducated or unaware of all the other options and how it affects everyone else. They think that their way is the right way. So they're blind to trying to encompass any other ideal way of living. The other reason why this is becoming bad